beautiful day and another beautiful place. We are once again at Kunzum Cafe in Gurgaon. Thanks Ajay for being our venue partner and allowing us to always barge into this location to record our podcast. The person today is Anisha Motwani, and I don't think she needs much of an introduction. She's all over. So when I tried to look for you on, just Googled you, so much came out. So lots of videos on you, lots of content written on you. So basically, you are a voice behind a woman. Let's put it that way. It's a lot is written about that you are a brand evangelist. You have created brands. You also support a lot of organizations from zero to what they have become today. So literally creating a brand. And that's what literally I'm doing in my second act, creating a brand through me, which is totally believing in creating impact for people and for myself every day.
Sure.
So thank you for being here because I have a lot of questions around that today. So
Thank
welcome.
you, Archana. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, I know we've been planning to do this for a while, and I know that you are in between a lot of shifting, etc. But thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So Anisha, there are a lot of questions which I don't want to repeat, and people, if they want to hear a lot about the strategy on brand to implementation, they can look up the videos. This podcast, I want to know more about you.
Sure.
So let me start by, of course, just spoken about building a professional brand. I want to talk about today, how is it building a personal brand for you?
That's a very interesting question to start with, Archana. I actually just did not focus on building a personal brand at all. In fact, that phrase just did not exist in my mind. I was so busy building professional brands for other companies, whether it was in my advertising career. I remember I did, early days, we had brands like Dabur Vatika, which was getting launched, right from conceptualizing to making that the most successful FMCG launch at that point in time, to many brands of Nestle, Coke, just name it, Frito-Lays. I remember working on so many brands in my advertising days. And then, and obviously one was working almost at a furious pace, 14 years, and I was heading a branch into advertising, and then somebody like me starts getting fatigued. I moved into saying, let me move to the other side and see if I can create my own brand. And that's when I got an opportunity to move as director marketing to General Motors. And Chevrolet was coming into the country, and then it was such a beautiful canvas to launch that car in the country. And then my financial services experience with Max Life. All the time I was building company brands. Personal brand became an outcome. I did not even realize when did I become, a person who people started calling as, oh, by the way, she's really good. She knows what she's doing. Right. So for me, personal brand is an outcome of all the work that I did professionally. I did not even know that phrase existed. And just as an aside, I'll give you, somebody remarked in a boardroom once at a very, very senior position when I was, towards the last stage of my career, corporate life. Somebody actually said, by the way, and that was the year, I think it was 2011 or something, when I had actually got voted as amongst the 50 most powerful women, not 25 most powerful women in India by Business Today. Okay,
that's commendable.
Somebody actually went and told my boss that all the while she's been building her personal brand, and this is when I had demonstrated phenomenal results in the business. Okay.
Wow.
I fortunately had a boss who said, okay, don't worry about that. As long as she's building my brand, it's fine. But it then occurred to me that people are actually thinking of doing this to, build my own brand. And that's the first time that phrase actually, I heard, and it hurt me so much. I said, I'm not even bothered. When I saw the Business Today magazine, those magazine guys called me and they said, ma'am, we are doing this large event at ITC Maratha, and we are calling, the top 25 women. And you've been selected. I could not believe it. I went and I walked up to my Copcom department. मेरा कोई entry डाला था तुम लोगों ने? They said, no ma'am. I said, कुछ form भरा होगा, कैसे हो गया ये? They said, no ma'am. It was basically my work that showed. So again, I just keep coming back to the point that I was making, I have no clue how personal brands are built. All that I know is how professional brands are built. If you do your job well at whatever you're doing, your personal brand is an outcome of that.
I like what you said about that you were just doing your work and you never focused on building a personal brand, and something got created.
Yeah.
But do you think from that time to today, would you like that every person builds a part of themselves as well? Because what happens in the corporate world is like you did not consciously build it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what even stops us, each one of us, to only do our work, probably. And we are not, sometimes I feel that we are not being 100% authentic to the work that we are doing, because maybe our values are different and we are just doing something else that we are told. But like I have realized this in SecondAct, that how I did not focus again on anything when I was in the corporate world of who Archana was. I was not known for who I was. So don't you think that's important? Because I think it's important now.
No, see, in hindsight, I am a kind of a person who, likes writing, who likes doing a lot of stuff, who likes speaking. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was doing it because I was enjoying it.
Right.
And I was in a domain which is a marketing domain, which in any case gives you many platforms to do that.
Sure.
So I was speaking at public forums because I was I had built strong brands and people wanted me to speak about brands. So I would go and speak at events. I would go and first time I started writing was when I joined General Motors. My first article came in Economic Times because I was so worked about how car advertising, such a beautiful, sexy category, had such banal advertising on mileage and service and all of it. And I said that, this is such a aspirational category. Why, do people actually make it so completely transactional? So it came from within, and I wrote my first article. And that started my writing journey till eventually I wrote a book, again believing that, not enough is written about how India builds its own brands. So for me, that's been my natural DNA. I've been curious, I've been wanting to get my voice out. But for many women, who are not like that, now when I speak on diversity and when I speak to a lot of women, I tell them actually make yourself visible. I in fact tell my own daughter that. Okay, she is a beautiful creative designer from Delhi College of Art, London School of Design. Okay, she started her own boutique design firm. And I was telling her, you are so good at your work, but how will the world discover you?
So
that
true.
You are one talent. I know as a mother you're one talent. If I speak about your talent, the world will think I'm biased as a mother.
Yeah.
But your talent should speak. But how will they discover you in this such a crowded, cluttered world? So you have to go out there. You have to create LinkedIn posts. You have to be visible. You have to connect with people.
Yes.
So yes, it's so true. Especially now. My times, there wasn't so much clutter. But now it's important to find a way to put yourself out there, but with your authentic self. Not fake, because very soon people will discover that what's out there and what is you is not real.
Yeah.
Okay. So as long as the two are congruent, it's important to go out there and put it.
Yeah. So thanks for that. And I'm also learning every day. And it's again not easy, I feel, because we are not conditioned to speak about our own wins.
Yes.
So
yes.
I also work a lot on women to recognize their own self-worth.
Yes.
And I think it's very tough because we are so conditioned to also play roles.
Yeah.
A perfect mother, a perfect wife,
Sure.
a good colleague and employer, whatever. So we are just, trying to make everything work. So you've also managed roles across. Things are not easy at home and like in the boardrooms as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that as women, and you work a lot with women, what are the things that come up for you when you work with women, really?
So I think this whole thing about managing multiple roles and prioritizing, I know it's a big cliche work-life balance that we keep hearing about. But I always feel that, according to me, this work-life balance is a myth, okay, at different stages of life.
Yes.
At a certain stage in life, you do manage to get the balance. But when in the early days, it's a choice. It's a work-life choice. You choose to work. And then that's your choice, and you need to invest time and energy into making that work.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You can't be living with a guilt syndrome all your life. Okay. If you made that choice, you have to reconcile yourself. I know easy said than done. Even to date, one cannot do it.
Are you not guilty?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're
That's what
guilty.
I'm saying.
I'm guilty.
Yeah,
Everybody.
absolutely. But gradually over the period of time, you learn to actually just become, as you become more successful, as you become more, confident in life, as you mature, there's a certain life stage at which you start realizing that it is okay, I don't have to, feel guilty about it. But early days, it's not easy, not easy at all. So for me, it's a work-life choice. If you made a choice, please invest your time and energy in that choice that you have made, and don't expect that the world will adjust to you. You have to adjust to the world.
So I also know that the work-life choice, or let me put it this way, the work-life balance in a way also comes from something that you also do consciously, whether it is working with brands which are moving towards sustainability,
Yes.
or helping World Bank to do the Swachh Bharat campaign. You've been like literally putting yourself out there, for the world, and also on the spiritual side.
Yes.
So does that really help you or become the person that you are also becoming and opening your own boundaries? Or were you the same person and it's just a process?
No, I've never been I wasn't the same person. I remember at a mid stage in my career, early days, it is okay. You're working very hard, you're trying to find your bearings and whatever, very passionate, very committed. But as you reach this mid-level to senior level in an organization, you become cutthroat competitive, because the world out there is, I don't know how I became so competitive. You also become a little more, as women, to make your presence felt, you also become a little more aggressive. And sometimes you don't realize that, that's rubbing off, on certain people in a different way.
Wow.
So I was competitive, I was aggressive. People used to call me very ambitious. Okay, they still do. And having said that, despite all of this, it's the same set of people who today, all the people who I worked with across industries are today my friends and are part of my network. Today, if they need a job reference, it is always my name that they give, because they're confident that no matter how tough I was or no matter how difficult I was, I was always transparent and honest, and always, wanting the best, for the brand, for the company, and for the people. So even today, that relationship exists. But at that point in time, what I was doing to myself was, I was just like, that whole common thing of that race. I think I went through it.
Wow.
I used to get scared picking up my bag and leaving at even 6:30 in the evening, because what would people say? Everybody is sitting and working, and I'm the one who's leaving at 6:30 in the evening. So went through all of that, and then I think there you reach a stage where you say, I don't know, it just naturally happened. I don't know, I planned for it. It just churns in your head that kab tak, for how long, for how long, for how long. And suddenly one day, it snaps and says, bahut ho gaya, this thing. So it just happened like that. I don't know how to explain it, but it just happened, and life just took such a beautiful turn after that. And that's when I guess spirituality also helped, because I had just attended Isha Insights at the ashram with Sadhguru. And I remember I became a volunteer right after. I wasn't attending any spiritual courses at Isha. I was attending Isha Insights, and my company had sponsored me. Max had sponsored me to attend that program. In fact, they gave me a choice. You can do one international program, or you can do Isha Insights, and that's your budget. You pick and choose. So I chose Isha Insights, and I went there. And at that point in time, Sadhguru used to be himself as part of Insights. So something, I think, just snapped in me, or whatever. And then since that point in time, I think 2013 I did Isha Insights, and 2015 I think I left. So those 2-3 years, I kept thinking that probably, time has come to do something on your own. And I was very fortunate that Max supported me. In fact, they gave me a huge runway. I quit, and yet I was part of the group for almost 3 to 4 years. So it was almost like such a smooth runway to transition from being an employee to being on your own, and yet not having to struggle for work.
So beautiful. So while you say that, that spirituality just happened to you, I think most people, approach spirituality a similar way. You know, it's not consciously, but you are literally, you meet at some place and you say, oh yeah, but I didn't think of it. So, do you have a definition of spirituality? Because a lot of people say, what is spirituality? And do you know how to define it?
So, actually, to be very honest, I don't know. I just see it as I actually have started at least having a mirror to my own self. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm able to, at most times, be able to pull back and see myself and my behavior, and be objective about it. To say, I did not do this right. I did not do this. I should have behaved differently. Maybe I should not have got angry. So
Very nice.
there is this. I'm able to see
Self-awareness.
myself. It's almost like finally I have a mirror to myself.
Very nice.
Not all times. Sometimes and it's not easy. I mean, at 50% of the times I'm still very reactive.
Right.
In that moment. But the intent is, if I can not react and respond consciously, that would be the day I say, and that's a journey. I don't think anybody gets it 100% of the time, but that's the attempt that I'm trying to make.
First I have to say thank you for accepting that you were in a rat race and you were competitive, because I think most people don't accept most of the things that we do when we try to change now.
You can't become a conscious person if you don't even know what your shortcomings are.
I think that is a beautiful path of spirituality.
Yeah,
I also feel a lot of self-awareness comes in, a lot of trying to change your own mindset. And just from there, I remember that yesterday I was talking to my daughter, and like any usual kid, she's, I'm having a bad day, and and as a usual parent, you will say everything will be fine, don't worry, everybody goes through this, think how fortunate you are, whatever. And she said, Mom, for once, please don't give me gyan. And then I reflected on, literally that she stopped talking to me after that, and she changed the topic, and I said, what did I do wrong? And then I think we are getting a lot of awareness and consciously trying to change. So I called her up again and I said, okay, so what could I have done better with this question? And she said, maybe you can just hear me sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. As simple as
so,
that.
like simplest of things. And I said, oh my God, this is so powerful. And so did you learn anything in particular? Do you remember any instance which you can quote, where you suddenly realize, oh yeah, but I could change this?
Many times, it's happened as part of professional world. I remember, with my partner, we were a partnership firm, and there was a certain project on which we finally were parting ways. There was a certain project on which we were supposed to go together, and we were right at the stage where we were actually chalking out our own paths. And I thought that project was as much mine, and I should have also been part of the project, even if it was the last project that I was. And my partner felt that no, since we are parting ways, he would like to take over. And I remember I went through a lot of difficult thinking in my head, angry, and I mean, what the hell, I worked on it and all of that. But I've also been very fortunate to have access to some really beautiful spiritual people, I mean, including Sister Shivani. I remember I sent her a message and I did a call with her. She was that accessible, and something that she said just completely clicked in my head, and I just let go. And I said, it's just so simple, just let go. Wow, I mean, in such a large, beautiful life, what is this one thing? Relationships are so much more important. I would much rather, I mean, we had such a beautiful partnership. I would much rather carry that forward rather than have something as silly as this, saw it out, So many such personal incidences and all, I could just go on and on.
Yeah, so because you work a lot on women, and you've also worked upon yourself, So what is it that you want to tell the women of today, based on what you did, probably, I won't say wrong, but what did you go through that when you changed over, you saw better of you?
One, I think, at least from a professional world perspective, it's important that you raise your hand, okay? You have to be heard, okay? Success does not come with your hands in the pocket. Okay?
Yeah, that's
If
a
you
good
have to
one.
be successful, you have to raise your hand. Okay, and to raise your hand, you need to know your subject well, because you raise your hand and you say something which is either not worthy of saying it, or it is half baked, or you're not yourself clear about it. This thing. At least say something which is you, it might not be excellent or brilliant or whatever, because that's not what happens, that happens once in a while, but at least something that's reasonably intelligent and with confidence. For me, that's important, because if you're fumbling, your body language just gets across to the person who's
Yeah.
listening to you. So in the professional world, I always tell people, raise your hand. Success does not come with hands in the pocket. The second thing that I tell them is that, do not carry your roles, do not blur your roles. When you are at work, you're be totally at work. Okay. I used to tell my children, I mean, I have two beautiful grown-up children. I mean, I have worked all throughout. My daughter was born 1 year into marriage, and all through that I have worked. And my son was born 8 years later. They knew that they could only call me at lunch hours. Or if there is an emergency, I had a fixed time where they were calling me and I was calling them back. The minute I reached home, even today, I have a habit of switching off phone at night. No
Very
matter
nice.
what, I was in advertising and I used to reach home and client calls and junior levels. Since that day, I got into the habit of switching off my phone. The minute I reach home, I used to switch off my phone. Now I switch it off at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, but I still switch it off for 12 hours every day. Okay. So when you are at home, be at home. When you are at work, be at work. And then there should be fixed times. The third thing, which is most important, we spoke about, is guilt. I mean, just forget the guilt. And the fourth thing is that the corner office is as much your right as it is a men's right. You cannot just assume that the corner office is not for you because of your personal commitment. So you always think, वो बहुत मुश्किल है job. I know, I went through it. I used to run away. The minute I used to get into a penultimate level, right through the time I left, by the way. Okay. Every time I used to come and reach a certain level, I used to just start saying that this is not for me. And I used to run away. Only in advertising, I reached as a head of branch, and that too, I left within 6 months of reaching there.
Right.
People were laughing at me, saying, you slogged for 15 years. Now at least enjoy, you are the branch head. You've got it. Now at least sit, take a breather and let others work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the corner office is not for me syndrome is something that women actually just need to, stay away from. And the fifth one that I speak about very extensively, and I've always spoken, is this whole expiry date syndrome. And that's linked to the CEO of corner is not for me, corner office is not for me. We always come with an expiry date syndrome. Okay. I'll have to leave my job when I get married. वहाँ से शुरू होता है, college से निकलती. I'll have to leave my job when I have a child. I'll have to leave my job when my husband gets transferred. I'll have to leave my job. वो जब होगा,
we're already preset in my mind.
वो जब होगा, we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
We all deal with it, because finally, like I said, it's a choice. And like I made a choice that my work will revolve around my career and not the vice versa. Okay.
Yeah.
That my life will revolve, my career will revolve around my life and not vice versa. So I knew life was important for me. And what was life was my family, my children, and all of it. That's why I never went. I mean, when I left General Motors, I had a chance to take on an APAC role. I refused. I said, nahi, my family will never go to Shanghai, whatever.
Yeah.
And there were several such things. So if you've made a certain choice, at least then be satisfied in that choice. Otherwise, what's the use of living with a grudge all the time? So clearly, not always just assuming that there's an expiry date syndrome, but despite all those decisions, one, अगर लगे रहोगे तुम consistently, passionately, with your total commitment, कहीं तो पहुंचोगे ना.
But tell me something, while I agree with you, that we all come with a preset and, we know कि ये मेरे लिए नहीं है. But I call it limiting beliefs, or the literally, like, because we are conditioned to believe that it's a stereotype. It is patriarchy, maybe, that we are dealing with it. We are put in that bracket that girls have to do this at a certain time, then children have to be born at a certain time. Things are changing in the metro spaces, but not everywhere. Still, there is a lot to do with. It's not a mindset change that only women can go through. It has to be like we talk about.
Men have to change, for women to change. And I think men have changed a lot, if you ask me.
Yes.
We were always for us change has been positive, okay? For them change has actually in many cases not been positive.
Yeah, so
Coming from days where their mother used to wait for them and dote on them, and beta mera whatever, to today having wives, who don't actually, give them that same level of doting and expect an equal partner, okay, and expect contribution. They've had to change, according to me, much more than we've had to change. For us, change has always been something that's been beneficial for us. For them, it is something that is actually, they had certain beliefs and now they have to behave in a certain
especially our
different way.
generation, I don't blame the youth of today because they're already growing up.
They're
like
already
together.
growing in the new era. Ours is the sandwich generation.
Sandwich generation, they're going through a lot. So whenever I speak to my husband about anything, it's just, oh, there goes male bashing. It's not about male bashing, but literally, we are also trying to figure out our own identity, literally. Because we're also coming up from, being so stereotypical to finding a voice, to like supporting other women. Because I feel it's a chain. It's our responsibility to also be conscious of how, the next generation is coming up to be.
Absolutely.
And we can't be that.
Absolutely. So, especially if you're expecting us to work because we are performing multiple roles, Having said that, there are, I mean, today I still think that women work so much more than men. Especially our generation, home responsibilities, children responsibilities, work, full-time work. Like I said, it's a competitive world out there. Don't expect any favors, whatever. I mean, it's a completely, and especially because we are educated and we know the outside world, we do also take on a lot on our plate. And I mean, I still think that I wish I had a 36 hours day instead of a 24-hour day. I mean, time is always falling short. There's just so much that you keep taking on your plate all the time.
Yeah. So the power of saying no, do you speak about that? Or creating your boundary as a woman?
Now at least professionally, one has started doing a lot of that. Because one is picking and choosing and saying no, and especially either it is not my kind of work or they don't think they're worthy of they're not paying you your worth or whatever. So at workspace I've learned to say a lot of no. In personal life, I think it is still difficult.
That I can see. That I can see. Yeah. So I think I'm consciously building that to say, okay, is it really putting stress on me? So I'm asking myself these days, is it okay for me to do this? And is it value for me or not? And where I feel no, it's just going to just make me more exhausted and tired, I actually decline.
Okay, nice.
Again, it's a change and not acceptable. It's not acceptable so easily everywhere else. But I think things are changing around and we all do it together. I think it'll come naturally. So Anisha, this podcast is about second act. I cannot let you go without answering, this very important question. This platform was built to inspire somebody else from your story. So if I ask you this question, what has your been second act, or are you still discovering your second act, or what is it that really inspires you or gets you out of bed or creates a purpose around what you're doing? What's your second act?
For me, my second act, I'm already living it. And if I were to summarize it, it would be that I have the freedom to live a life of choice.
Nice.
Okay? I today am living a life of my choice at most times. Nice. It would be almost mythical to say that 100% of the times it doesn't happen. But at most times, I control my life. I don't report into anybody.
So do you think having a choice is for the privileged?
Well, I'll be honest, in many ways, yes. Okay. I don't think somebody, like my maid has a choice. She has to get up, she has to work, whatever. She can't afford to just say that, no, I'm not going for work. I mean, there's livelihood at stake for many people. So is it an elitist thought, living a life of choice? Yes, it is. But I'm fortunate enough to be given that, get that option to exercise my choice.
I think also, I think when we talk about like people who don't have like a choice to live a life of their own, but they have a choice of things to say no to as well, because I work a lot with the marginalized communities.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they come from abusive backgrounds.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
now when you start doing work with them, and
Yeah.
especially people who are
Yeah.
coming at home, sitting with them, talking to them,
Yeah.
and putting your thought into their space, saying that you don't have to go through this every day.
Yeah.
Again, they can make a choice of not staying with such a person.
Yeah,
Of like,
true.
you know, so we can make choices depending
sure.
upon how we want to lead our
True.
life. So I think
True.
that,
Yeah,
of
that's a
course,
good lens. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good lens. They too have a choice. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful conversation, and so much came out of this, but we have a rapid fire, of course. And there's no hamper, but it is just to get you want to know you better. So, okay. So what does Anisha do when she's absolutely like stressed and doesn't know where to go?
You know, I'm such a TV buff.
Oh, wow.
I just put on a show on Netflix or something, and I just instantly just dissolve in that world and I forget it.
Oh, yeah. So what is the latest binge watching you've done so far?
I just finished watching Manifest second season.
Nice.
And I just started some Hush Hush, some 4 women goddesses or whatever. So I just started that yesterday.
Okay, all the best. Tell us how you liked it. So are you a reader?
I used to read a lot. I used to read a book a day. To be
Book a
very
day.
honest, now I read a lot on the net, but I'm not able to complete a book. I'll be very honest.
So Storm the Norm was your book, which at least I got to know about you from that book.
Yes.
And the name of your venture is also Storm the Norm. So I'm very curious to know, what storm have you normed recently?
What norm have I stormed?
or what norm have you stormed, either way?
You know, personally for me, there are all of norms are all stereotypes, and like we said, women just live with stereotypes all the time. Women can't work, in a certain way. Women have to keep certain hours. Women have to speak in a certain way. All of those. For me, it's not just one big norm that I've stormed, but a series of these norms that one keeps challenging to change the paradigm. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think I've been continuously doing that repeatedly, because that's the philosophy with which I actually stormed the norm while the name happened accidentally. But the minute we came across this phrase, it just instantly I was connected to it, because that has been my DNA. I've always looked at life and taken a contrarian approach. And I've always said, if this is the way things are done, what if we were to look at it with a different lens? It's all about changing the lens. Okay. So the world looks at a cup of coffee as a cup of coffee. That's the lens with which you're looking at coffee. Is there any other lens with which I can look at coffee? So even when I was building brands, okay, I was changing the lens. Okay.
Nice.
So life insurance. Okay. When I joined the life insurance industry, I spent 8 years there. And I had gone from a car industry, which was such an aspirational category, to a life insurance industry. And people were, generally my colleagues were telling me, ye kya tum kar rahe ho? From such an attractive category, which has a lot of pull, you're going into a life insurance category, which is such a push.
Totally push.
And that was one of the reasons the company had hired me, to create pull in a push industry. And that was literally the brief to me. And when I joined, I could look at life insurance with a lens of insurance, which is pure commerce. कितना डालते हो, कितना मिलता है, कब मिलता है, किस stage पे मिलता है. Or I could look at insurance with the lens of life. Okay, and I looked at it with the lens of life, a beautiful canvas of life, which gives you life's most important critical milestones, from birth to death, from your childbirth to your pension to education. What bigger milestones of life? I chose to change the lens to life and not insurance, and I did nothing about insurance in my category. Okay, and that's when actually my work started getting recognized, because life offers you such a beautiful canvas. And if you see all the work that I did during 8 years, is when actually I created the most successful work, because I was looking at life and not as insurance. So every time in life, if you change the lens, okay, and you say this norm, this is a standard norm, okay, how do I actually storm it? And you will see such innovative, unique stuff comes out that it becomes a game changer.
Yeah, I so totally agree.
Yeah.
That's what I feel in my second act as well. I'm
Absolutely.
disrupting every day
Absolutely.
and bringing it to life. Okay, so if there are 3 life lessons that you want people who are seeing us or hearing us today, what are your life lessons?
I think just work with a lot of authenticity and honesty. Okay, there is no shortcut for hard work or diligence. Uh, there's nothing that can substitute that. Secondly, you have to always stay hungry. People can say ambition is a negative word or whatever. The minute your hunger dies down, you will become stagnated. So for me, that's why I've always stayed hungry. And the third thing is that it is important that you invest in your own self. As a woman, I keep now saying that, because life just passes you by, and there you have to just say that, no, my if the tree, there's a beautiful Osho quote that I discovered many years back, and I still live with that. If the tree does not nurture itself, how does it bear fruits? So if you are the tree, if you are the central pivot in your family's life, nurture yourself, nourish yourself. Only then will you bear fruits for others to enjoy.
So let's nourish ourselves first and care about firstly ourselves, our self-care, our self-worth. And thanks, Anisha. What a beautiful conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's really nice of you to have come.
Thank you.